Those who dig graves for others often end up falling into them first. My dear chosen ones, let that sink in. The karmic couple and their loyal little practitioner thought they were grave diggers of destiny. They believed they were architects of your downfall, orchestrators of chaos, masters of manipulation. But what they never calculated was this: the grave they dug wasn't for you. It was for themselves. That's the irony of playing games with energy. You never get to decide where the ricochet lands. Every generation has predators, the schemers, the whisperers, the manipulators who believe that shadows obey their commands. They move like chess players, thinking pawns and candles, spells and secrets will shift the board in their favor. The karmic couple you've been circling with, they thought manipulation was strategy and cruelty was cleverness. And their practitioner, that one believed tools, chants and rituals made them untouchable. But chosen ones, here's the truth. The moment they touched you, they were no longer writing a script. They were signing a confession. See, my dear chosen ones, you are not just another name, another body in the room. You are a walking verdict. You are living proof that energy recognizes hierarchy, and no matter how elaborate the scheme, deception always kneels before authenticity. They didn't know this. They thought you were soft clay in their hands. They thought you were a page they could scribble on with lies. But you weren't the page. You were the pen. And every word they tried to write against you only etched their own ending deeper. Chosen ones, before we dive deeper, take a moment to stand with us. If this message is already stirring something inside you, if it's reminding you of the power you carry and exposing the weakness of those who tried to break you, then show your support. Hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and help us keep creating content that fuels your spirit, sharpens your vision, and pushes you higher. Your support isn't just for us. It's what keeps this family of chosen ones growing stronger together. Ask yourself this: why do manipulators always collapse under their own weight? Why do schemers get tangled in their own webs? Why do the loudest predators end up choking on silence? Science has shown us something they'll never admit. When people build their lives on manipulation, their brains and bodies can't handle the weight. Stress eats them alive. Paranoia drives them into corners. Lies turn into poison that leaks into their health, their money, their relationships. That's not magic, it's physics. That's not coincidence, it's consequence. But you, chosen ones, you are wired differently. You don't absorb poison, you reflect it. Attacks aimed at you don't land because they were never engineered for your frequency. You are too high, too sealed, too unbothered for that. And while they thought they were breaking you down, what they were really doing was unlocking the part of you that dismantles corruption without lifting a finger. Think about it. The karmic couple expected fireworks when their rituals were cast. They pictured you drowning, collapsing, begging for air. They thought their practitioner was their ultimate shield, their secret weapon, their iron wall. But walls are useless when the storm is coming from inside. They didn't realize you weren't their victim, you were their mirror. And when they sent shadows your way, those shadows took one look at you, saw no place to land, and turned right back around like homing missiles. That's why their lives are crumbling now. They call it bad luck. They call it stress. They call it betrayal. But chosen ones, you and I both know what it really is. It's the boomerang effect in full swing. They summoned shadows, but shadows don't stay loyal. They demanded payment, and the weakest link always pays first. It's not punishment. It's not even revenge. It's gravity. And here's the part that makes me laugh. Chosen ones. They thought the death angel would arrive with drama, lightning strikes, chaos in the streets, thunder that would shake the world. They thought they'd know when it arrived. But the real angel of death to deception doesn't need theatrics. It doesn't knock. It doesn't roar. It moves in silence. in subtleties, in moments so small they don't even notice until the whole foundation caves. While they were waiting for explosions, you just kept living. You laughed. You minded your business. You kept breathing while their house of cards collapsed in slow motion. So buckle in, chosen ones, because what they've just learned the hardest way possible is this. You don't call war on someone who is born as the ending. You don't summon storms against the storm itself. And you don't play chess against the board. They thought they were predators circling prey. But when they circled you, they circled their own ending. That's the beauty of being chosen. You don't need to fight with noise. You don't need to announce your power. Your very existence rewrites the script. Your presence alone flips the board. And while enemies scratch their heads trying to figure out why their spells boomerang, why their lies don't stick, why their health is failing and their alliances are breaking, you already know the answer. You are not here to collapse. You are here to be the collapse. Chosen ones, hold this truth close. Let it sharpen you. Let it remind you who you are. You don't dodge attacks. They dissolve on impact. You don't fear shadows. They fear you. And you don't need to prove anything to those who try to play hunter. Because the hunter is already in you, disguised as stillness, disguised as calm. And when the mask drops, it won't be your downfall they see. It will be their own. So here we are, the karmic couple, their practitioner, their rituals, their lies, their plots. All of it dissolving, piece by piece, not because you fought harder, but because you stood taller. That's what it means to be chosen. That's what it means to be the death angel they never saw coming. They thought you were the target, but you were the verdict all along. And to you, yes, you, my chosen ones, thank you for being here in this moment. Whether this is your first time stepping into our circle or you've been riding with us from the beginning, your presence fuels every word we bring forward. If you're ready to watch the karmic couple and their practitioner collapse under the weight of their own schemes, show it. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and drop the number 77 in the comments so we know you're walking this path with power. Every click, every comment, every bit of support keeps this energy alive and unstoppable. And now, let's step in deeper, because if you are truly chosen, you will recognize these signs as the very proof that you are the death angel they never saw coming. Let's get started. Number 1, when they unleashed darkness, it came back wearing your face. When they summoned shadows, the shadows carried your name back to them. He who lights a fire to burn another often ends up standing in the blaze himself. My dear chosen ones, let's talk about the karmic couple and their practitioner. They thought they were masterminds, didn't they? Whispering in secret corners, setting up rituals, pulling strings as if the universe were a puppet show with them as directors. They thought shadows would march in line like obedient soldiers. They believed energy could be chained, ordered, and sent at will, like darkness was a dog they could train to attack you. But what they never considered was this: the leash was never in their hands. Chosen ones, here's the truth they couldn't calculate. The very moment they unleashed darkness toward you, it didn't march forward like an army. It spun around like a boomerang, seeking the closest place it could attach. And since your frequency doesn't absorb poison, since your spirit doesn't give shadows a place to rest, the energy had no choice but to return home. That's the part people don't talk about. Dark energy isn't loyal. It doesn't recognize masters. It always demands payment, and the weakest vessel always pays first. Have you ever noticed how manipulators end up consumed by their own schemes? How liars collapse under the weight of their own lies? It's not coincidence. It's not random. It's design. The karmic couple thought they were clever, hiding behind their practitioner, setting traps with candles, chants, and whispered instructions. But chosen ones, all they really did was pull the trigger on their own collapse. They weren't opening a door to your destruction. They were unlocking the chamber inside you that dismantles everything built on deceit. Think of it like this. Their curses were like alarms. Every ritual, every plot, every malicious word was another siren echoing back at them. They wanted silence for you, but they created noise for themselves. They wanted chains to bind you, but the links circled their own wrists. They wanted to build a pit for you, but gravity made sure they fell in first. This is what happens when they underestimate the chosen. They think they're sending shadows into battle, but those shadows recognize hierarchy. And when they looked at you, they didn't see weakness. They saw something they couldn't touch. My dear chosen ones, here's where the irony hits hardest. They thought they were writing your ending. They didn't realize they were drafting their own obituary. They can't understand now why everything is collapsing, why their health is deteriorating, why their money is slipping like sand through fingers, why relationships are crumbling like old bricks. They tell themselves it's bad luck. They blame stress. They cry about betrayal. But you know the truth. The shadows they weaponized didn't vanish. They simply went home. And here's a question you may be asking yourself. Why didn't it touch me? Why didn't it land? And the answer is simple. Because it was never engineered for your frequency. Darkness seeks out cracks, vulnerabilities, open doors. But chosen ones, your presence seals those cracks. You walk with a natural shield, not because you built one, but because you are one. The attack doesn't bounce off. It reconfigures. It redirects. It doesn't just fail. It reverses course. That's why their downfall feels so sudden to them. That's why they sit in confusion, asking themselves what went wrong. They thought they had control. They thought they had precision. But darkness doesn't negotiate. It doesn't care about intentions. It doesn't care about promises. Once unleashed, it moves freely, and when it can't penetrate you, it eats the hand that released it. That's why the karmic couple can't sleep at night. That's why their practitioner feels drained. That's why every step they take feels heavier than the last. And my chosen ones, let me tell you something that will strengthen you even more. They thought they summoned darkness, but what they really summoned was the revelation of who you are. Because only in attack do they discover that you are not ordinary prey. You are the angel of death to deception itself. Not with wings or swords, not with theatrics or noise, but with quiet presence. You walk into the room and corruption starts choking on its own lies. You don't even have to lift a hand. Your stillness alone suffocates their schemes. The lesson for them is brutal. They wanted you destroyed, but they invited ruin into their own living room. They thought they could unleash shadows and stay safe. But shadows don't respect alliances. Shadows don't respect contracts. They only respect strength. And when they met you, they found strength they never knew existed. So remember this, chosen ones, every attack is just energy searching for a host. And when it finds no landing place in you, it doesn't vanish. It multiplies, it intensifies, and it returns to sender. They didn't just lose their battle against you, they fed the very storm that swept them away. That is the price they never thought they'd pay. And that, my dear chosen ones, is the power you carry when you are the verdict they never saw coming. Number 2. Their so-called protector never saw the power hidden in your silence. Their practitioner never saw the power of the unseen one standing before them. When imitation tries to compete with authenticity, it always collapses under the weight of its own performance. My dear chosen ones, let's peel back the mask of their so-called practitioner. To the karmic couple, this practitioner was everything. Their ultimate weapon, their shield in the shadows, the one who could twist fate like clay in their hands. They leaned on this person as though power could be purchased, borrowed or outsourced. Candles, chants, rituals, whispers, this was their fortress. But what they didn't see was that while their practitioner was burning candles in the dark, you were already burning from within. While they were calling on forces with props and rehearsed words, you were operating at a level that needed no props, no middlemen, and no permission. That's what terrifies them the most. They underestimated you because you didn't look like power to them. You weren't waving incense, reciting memorized scripts, or dressing the part of someone mystical. But chosen ones, here's the twist. They were watching for costumes, and you showed up as the script itself. They were busy trying to construct power artificially, while you were born with it, woven into your very being. You didn't need an altar because your life itself is the altar. You didn't need to perform a ritual because your energy is already a command. And when energy is authentic, no imitation can override it. Ask yourself this, chosen ones, why do the strongest structures always collapse when they are built on imitation? Because no matter how well built, copies don't carry the same essence as originals. That practitioner memorized spells, studied shadows, and learned manipulations like a student learning tricks. But tricks have expiration dates. Tricks require props. Tricks demand payment. You, on the other hand, are not performing tricks. You are the system itself. You are the blueprint that cannot be copied. They thought rituals could override you. They thought more candles, louder chants, or more elaborate ceremonies could tip the scales. They thought power was about accumulation. Who can conjure more? Who can pay more? Who can spend longer hours in the dark? But chosen ones, your very existence shattered their equation. Because you didn't win by outplaying them at their game. You won by refusing to play it at all. That's what unraveled them. It's like trying to write over a password-protected document without the code. They sat there, scribbling with all their force, believing their ink would overwrite your destiny. But the page never even accepted their words. No matter how much they pushed, no matter how much they paid, access was always denied. Your frequency was already sealed, untouchable, uneditable. And when their practitioners' rituals failed, it shook the karmic couple to the core. Imagine placing all your trust in a shield, only to discover that the shield was paper thin. Imagine believing you had the ultimate weapon, only to realize it backfired in your own hands. That's exactly what happened. The forces they trusted collapsed. Not because you fought harder, not because you blocked harder, but because your presence itself invalidated every single move before it even began. My chosen ones, here's where the lesson cuts the deepest. Practitioners need tools, but you are the tool. They need scripts, but you are the script. They need props, but you are the presence. This isn't about competition. This is about league. They were never in yours. And when the realization hit them, it wasn't just defeat they felt, it was humiliation. They discovered that their entire belief system had limits, while you operate outside of limits. So let it sink in. They weren't just losing against you, they were exposed. They were reminded that authenticity doesn't require costumes, and true power doesn't need rehearsals. They thought you were just another target they could manipulate through their practitioner, but what they really touched was a current that burns everything counterfeit to ash. And now, chosen ones, they know. They never had a chance. Not because you fought them, but because you are the one thing they can never replicate, never override, never control. The unseen force that doesn't need to prove itself, because it already is. Number 3. They thought you were prey, but you were the predator in disguise. Predators often choke on the silence of the prey they underestimated. My dear chosen ones, this one cuts deep. The karmic couple and their eager practitioners circled you like scavengers, convinced they had found their next easy meal. In their eyes, you looked like the perfect target, quiet, isolated, misunderstood, and without the kind of backup they thought mattered. They mistook your silence for weakness, your calm for helplessness, and your endurance for submission. They saw you as prey, not knowing they had just locked eyes with a hunter in disguise. Chosen ones, understand this. Your stillness was never weakness. It was strategy. True power doesn't announce itself with noise. It watches, it studies, it waits. They believed you were cornered, vulnerable, someone who would crack under pressure or retreat when the heat turned up. But while they were circling you with arrogance, you were studying their patterns. While they were celebrating what they thought were small victories, you were already calculating their collapse. And this is where their arrogance became their greatest downfall. Predators don't expect prey to flip the entire hunt on its head. They thrive on the illusion of control. They need you to panic. They need you to run. They need you to crumble under intimidation. But chosen ones, you refused to audition for that role. You didn't panic. You didn't tremble. You didn't break. You stayed still, and that stillness became their undoing. Ask yourself this, chosen ones, why did your calmness drive them insane? Why did your silence make them restless? Because silence is a mirror. When you didn't react, they were forced to face their own reflection. Every scheme, every lie, every manipulation bounced back louder in the echo chamber of their own minds. They thought they were orchestrating your ending. Instead, they were digging their own grave deeper with every move. This is the patience of the hunter. You didn't need to reveal your strength. You didn't need to strike first. You let them expose every trick, every weakness, every mask they wore until they had nothing left to hide behind. That's when the real tables turned, not with chaos, but with quiet inevitability. By the time they realized what was happening, the hunt was already over, and they were the ones bleeding out. And here's the brutal truth. Predators only win when their target plays the role of victim. They needed you to break so they could feel powerful. They needed you to lash out so they could claim victory. But you didn't. You stayed calm. You stayed grounded. And in doing so, you shattered the illusion that they were ever in control. Nothing is more terrifying to a predator than realizing the prey they've been toying with was studying them the entire time. Think of it like a chess match. They thought they were moving pawns to trap your king. But you weren't even playing the same game. You were the board itself, and every move they made was already accounted for. That's why when the final moment came, they couldn't even see how they lost. All they knew was that the ending arrived, and it wasn't yours. It was theirs. Chosen ones, this is why your silence is so lethal. To the untrained eye, it looks like passivity. To manipulators, it looks like defeat. But in reality, your silence is observation, your calmness is calculation, and your patience is the camouflage of a hunter waiting for the perfect strike. They thought they were the ones circling. They thought you were defenseless. But what they were really doing was circling their own demise. And the irony? They won't admit it, but deep down, they felt it. They felt the unease every time you didn't react. They felt the pressure when you didn't play along. They sensed something was off, but arrogance made them ignore it. By the time realization hit that the one they thought was prey was actually the predator in disguise, it was already too late. So, my chosen ones, remember this. Your strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it observes. Sometimes it hides in plain sight until the perfect moment arrives. They mistook your patience for weakness, but that patience was the trap they walked into. And by the time they saw the truth, the game was already over, and the scoreboard was written in their downfall. They thought you were prey, but in reality, you were the hunter dressed in innocence. And the blood they see now is not yours. It's theirs. Number 4. You don't block attacks. You turn them into their own weapons. They thought you would block the blow, but you turned it into their guillotine. The arrow you launch in secret doesn't vanish. It circles until it finds the one who drew the bow. My dear chosen ones, this is the lesson they never expected to learn. The karmic couple and their faithful practitioner believed that power meant attack. They thought they could send curses, lies, and plots your way like darts thrown at a target. In their minds, you would scramble like most people do, panicking, building walls, begging for protection, and hoping the blows wouldn't land. But they miscalculated. They didn't know that chosen ones don't waste energy fighting shadows that were never designed to stick. You don't block. You don't panic. You don't even flinch. You reverse. Understand this, chosen ones. Your strength is not in defense, but in reflection. You are a living mirror, and mirrors don't absorb. They return. When they launched their arrows, they didn't find wounds in you. They found a wall of glass that turned every strike back toward its sender. That's why their lives are unraveling so violently now. Because energy doesn't just return, it multiplies on the journey back. The curse they whispered to trap you ended up tying their own hands. The sickness they envisioned for you clung to their bodies instead. The failures they plotted in your name began burning down the roofs over their heads. At first they didn't see it. They thought the headaches were stress. They thought the betrayals were coincidence. They thought their money slipping away was just bad luck. But slowly, too slowly for them to stop it, the pattern became undeniable. Every dart they sent out returned sharper, heavier, and more merciless than before. And my chosen ones, let's make this clear. This isn't revenge. This isn't punishment. This is revelation. It's the truth exposing itself in plain sight, that they were never fighting you. They were wrestling with their own shadows the whole time. Think about that for a moment. The karmic couple sat plotting at night, believing they were striking at you. The practitioner muttered incantations, convinced they were sending energy your way. But what they really did was unleash their own malice into the air. And when it couldn't take root in you, it searched for the nearest vulnerable vessel. It didn't have to look far. It found them. They were never sending darkness outward. They were feeding it inward. They just didn't realize until too late that the mirror doesn't lie. This is the terror they can't escape now. Not the curses, not the sickness, not even the loss of stability. The real terror is knowing the destruction came from their own hands. That truth is what eats at them more than the pain itself. Because if you had merely blocked it, they could still pretend their rituals worked, that maybe they had some power left. But you didn't block. You reversed. You stripped away the illusion and forced them to see the undeniable. Their downfall was self-made. Chosen ones, this is why you don't chase revenge. You don't need to. You don't stalk enemies or waste breath on proving them wrong. You don't scramble for retaliation, because every curse they send is nothing more than a boomerang waiting for its moment to swing back. And when it does, it doesn't simply sting, it devours. The shadows they unleashed now drag them down, piece by piece, while you remain untouched, still rising. This is your gift, my chosen ones. You are not a wall, you are a mirror. And mirrors don't fight, they expose. You didn't engage in their chaos, yet their chaos returned home, multiplied. You didn't lift a hand, yet they are the ones collapsing. That is the hardest lesson they will ever learn. You don't block spells, you transform them. And their own darkness has now become their executioner. Number 5. They expected a quick ending. Instead, they got a living collapse. They forgot that death doesn't always wear a coffin. Some people die long before their last breath. They just don't realize the funeral is already happening. My dear chosen ones, let's cut straight through the illusions. The karmic couple and their practitioner thought destruction meant blood, bruises, and sudden endings. They pictured you falling sick, suffering accidents, or being buried under drama so heavy you couldn't rise again. They thought death was physical, something you could point at, something you could stage. But what they never understood is that the harshest form of death doesn't touch the body. It dismantles everything that gives the body a reason to keep moving. That's the kind of death they summoned. The one that doesn't arrive in a flash, but creeps in quietly like a thief. It strips away joy first, then security, then reputation, then every illusion of control they built their lives upon. It's a death by subtraction, piece by piece, day after day, until they wake up one morning and realize they're still breathing, but their life is gone. No spark, no direction, no peace. Just emptiness echoing back at them. Chosen ones, they thought they could frighten you with threats of pain. But fear is powerless against you because you've already learned what they haven't. That real strength isn't about dodging blows, it's about knowing you can't be broken in the first place. So while they sent curses, intimidation, and whispers designed to crack your spirit, all they managed to do was summon a collapse that clung to themselves. And this collapse was different. It wasn't loud, it wasn't bloody. It was silent but relentless, the kind of destruction money can't fix and apologies can't reverse. Look at what happened to them. The dreams they bragged about dried up like rivers in drought. Opportunities that once seemed endless suddenly vanished. Doors they forced open slammed in their faces with a finality they didn't expect. Instead of savoring victory, they found themselves choking on confusion, disappointment, and loss they couldn't explain to anyone. The energy they aimed at you didn't vanish. It wrapped around their own lives like smoke in a closed room, suffocating them slowly. And you, my dear chosen ones, you stood untouched, still walking, still rising, still building. Not because you dodged the attack, but because the attack was never designed for your frequency. That's what confuses them the most. They can't understand why your foundation remains solid while theirs crumbles like sand castles against the tide. They mutter about bad luck. They complain about stress. They even point fingers at betrayal. But you know better. What they're living through isn't coincidence, it's consequence. Friends turned on them, allies became enemies. People who once applauded them began to step back, shaking their heads, finally seeing through the masks. Reputation, the crown they wore so proudly, slipped from their heads and shattered on the floor, and the masks. They fell off in public, one by one, until the world saw the truth they fought so hard to bury. That's a death more brutal than a coffin could ever be, because it doesn't end with silence. It ends with humiliation. It erases not just their future, but the very identity they worked over time to maintain. And here's the bitterest irony of all. They wanted you destroyed. They wanted you erased. Yet you're still here, standing taller, breathing freer, smiling wider. You survived everything they plotted without losing a single piece of yourself. Meanwhile, they've become ghosts trapped inside their own bodies, alive but hollow, present but empty, walking around with no real joy, no real trust, no real future to hold on to. That is the torment they never planned for. Chosen ones, remember this lesson because it will fuel you in your quietest moments. Death isn't always about burying flesh and bone. Sometimes death is the slow disintegration of everything a person thought kept them alive. Dreams, relationships, opportunities, masks, and illusions. That's the kind of death the karmic couple and their practitioner summoned, and it swallowed them whole while you kept moving forward. They thought you would crumble. They thought you would disappear. Instead, it was them who dissolved into shadows of their own making. And the most devastating truth is this. They're not just living with loss. They're living as proof that you don't play with chosen ones without paying a price. The death they tried to send toward you never touched your body, but it consumed their existence piece by piece. And now, while you rise stronger, they fade further into irrelevance with every passing day. That's the lesson they never saw coming. And that, my dear chosen ones, is why being underestimated will always be your greatest weapon. Number 6. Every secret move they made became evidence against themselves. Their practitioner forgot that the universe always keeps receipts. The walls they thought would hide them were nothing but mirrors, and every move they made reflected straight back. My dear chosen ones, this is where their illusion shattered. The karmic couple and their practitioner believed secrecy was their strongest weapon. They told themselves, if no one sees it, it never happened. They lit candles in rooms with the blinds pulled tight, whispered incantations under their breath, and reassured each other that what was done in the dark would never echo in the light. They believed rituals erased accountability, that shadows were a kind of insurance policy shielding them from exposure. But here's the flaw in their thinking. Energy doesn't vanish into silence. It records, it collects, it builds like evidence in a courtroom they can't see. Chosen ones, this is the mistake manipulators always make. They confuse privacy with protection. They think hidden actions are immune to consequence, but every word they chanted, every intention they sharpened like a knife, every malicious thought they crafted toward you was another entry in a growing case file. They didn't realize the universe is the most meticulous witness of all. It doesn't miss a whisper. It doesn't overlook a ritual. It doesn't erase records because the lights are dimmed. They were piling up receipts against themselves with every move, and the bill was always going to come due. They thought they had time. Oh yes, the karmic couple believed they could drag this game out indefinitely. They thought each new ritual bought them more distance from collapse, that every offering their practitioner made extended their runway. But energy doesn't work that way. Every ritual carries an expiration date. Every act of sabotage, every curse, every shadow they pushed forward was stamped with a countdown clock. They were just too arrogant to hear the ticking. And here's what unsettles them most. While they imagined you chained in their schemes, you weren't the one on trial. You were the witness. Your stillness, your endurance, your ability to stand untouched while they kept striking was proof. Every time they sent energy your way and it boomeranged back, another receipt printed. Every moment you stood tall while they crumbled, another page was added to their case file. They thought they were showing the world your weakness. What they were really doing was documenting their own guilt. Think about it, chosen ones. How many times have you asked yourself, why do they keep coming at me? Why can't they just stop? And the answer is, they couldn't stop. The same secrecy they believed protected them was the same thing driving them to dig deeper holes. They didn't know that the universe doesn't just watch, it balances. The karmic couple thought rituals were contracts. In reality, they were signatures on their own sentence. And when the hammer finally dropped, it wasn't random, it wasn't bad luck, it wasn't stress, it was jurisdiction, the exactness of their downfall. How it lined up so perfectly, how it hit so precisely, how it stripped away the very things they valued most. Wasn't an accident. It was the clock striking zero. The protection they thought they purchased wasn't protection at all. It was a countdown, a ticking reminder that every move in the dark has its day in the open. Here's the brutal irony. They thought you were the one being judged. They looked at you and said, if this works, it proves they're weak, unworthy, fragile. But what really happened? The universe turned the tables. Every curse, every ritual, every plot didn't prove your weakness. It revealed their obsession. It didn't highlight your fragility. It documented their corruption. By targeting you, they dragged themselves into trial. And with each move, they didn't realize they were testifying against themselves. Chosen ones, let this fuel you. Let it remind you that silence is never empty. When you stand calm, unbothered and untouched, you're not avoiding the fight. You're letting the receipts pile up. You don't have to swing back. You don't have to match their noise. You don't have to expose them yourself. The universe already keeps track, and the evidence doesn't lie. That's why their fall feels so exact, so sudden, so surgical. It wasn't chaos. It was consequence. They thought secrecy meant safety. They thought rituals meant power. They thought shadows meant control. But what they got instead was exposure, receipts, and collapse. That's the price of underestimating you. That's the reality of forgetting that the universe never erases evidence. And that, my chosen ones, is why their practitioners' greatest flaw wasn't the rituals they performed. It was the arrogance of thinking they could outrun accountability. They couldn't. They never could. Number 7, they tried to hide in shadows, but your vision saw straight through. They tried to weaponize secrets, but you were born with X-ray vision. A mask may hide a face, but it can never hide energy. My dear chosen ones, let's peel this layer back. The karmic couple and their little practitioner thought they had a secret weapon. Literally. They believed secrecy was the key to their power. As long as they kept things in whispers, in coded stares, in conversations carried out in the shadows, they thought they were untouchable. To them, hidden agendas were the ultimate shield, and gossip cloaked in silence was a sword sharp enough to pierce your peace. But what they never calculated was that chosen ones don't need to overhear. We don't need to stumble on conversations or gather proof like detectives. Chosen ones are built with something far sharper than ears and eyes. We carry vision that penetrates through the disguise. Think about it, chosen ones. How many times have you walked into a room and instantly felt the heaviness of someone's hidden intentions? How many times have you looked into a smiling face and seen the crack in the mask without a single word being spoken? That is your radar. That is your built-in X-ray system that no wall, no whisper, no dark corner can block. The karmic couple thought they were clever architects of silence, but silence is your territory. They thought their secrets wrapped them in power, but secrets unravel themselves in your presence. And here's what rattled them the most. You didn't run around searching for answers. You didn't chase explanations. You didn't waste energy demanding the truth. No, my dear chosen ones, you simply stayed calm. That calmness wasn't ignorance, it was mastery. It was the kind of composure that screamed louder than any confrontation. And that silence, it shredded them. Because how could you keep seeing through walls they believed were impenetrable? How could you know things no one had told you? That's the part they'll never understand. Your intuition doesn't guess, it confirms. It doesn't assume, it knows. The truth is, chosen ones operate on a frequency where motives and intentions are naked. Energy doesn't lie, and you were born reading energy the way others read letters on a page. That's why their so-called secrets never stayed hidden. Every alliance they formed in the dark, every conversation dripping with malice, every false smile they threw your way, it was all registered in your spirit before it even reached your ears. By the time they thought they were concealing something, you had already filed it away in truth's cabinet. And here's where it cut them deepest. They believed concealment gave them the upper hand. They thought hidden daggers were deadliest. But chosen ones, their secrecy didn't strengthen them, it exposed them. Their very attempts to hide only made them louder to your spirit. Every whisper became a shout. Every false mask became transparent glass. Every shadow they tried to blend into only made their outlines clearer. They thought they were clever, disguising betrayal as loyalty, wrapping gossip as concern. But when your eyes met theirs, their whole performance crumbled and paranoia gripped them. That paranoia is their curse. Because even when you said nothing, they felt exposed. Even when you gave them calm silence, they felt like you were holding evidence against them. And the funniest part, you didn't need evidence. You didn't need proof. You didn't need to play detective. Your knowing was enough. Your presence was enough. That's why conspiracies can never outmaneuver chosen ones. Concealment is powerless where vision lives. So, my chosen ones, take this as fuel. You don't have to waste your energy proving who they are. You don't have to argue, fight, or gather receipts. Your radar already stripped them bare, and that's the ultimate humiliation for them. They thought secrets gave them power. They didn't realize their secrets were just neon signs flashing guilty in your presence. By the time they realized it, it was already too late. They had exposed themselves without even knowing it. They revealed their intentions in the very act of trying to hide them. That's the paradox of chosen ones. You don't chase truth, truth chases you. You don't force exposure, it happens naturally in your presence. And for them, that's the most terrifying part. Because no matter how much they plot in shadows, you will always see straight through. And this is what makes you the death angel to their deception. Not because you strike, but because you see, and nothing destroys the power of a lie faster than a gaze that refuses to be fooled. Number 8. They believed masks could save them, but their lies became the noose. They thought the angel of death meant you would end them, not that their masks would. A mask can hide a face, but it cannot hide the cracks when the weight of truth presses down. My dear chosen ones, let's peel this one back. The karmic couple and their practitioner heard the words angel of death, and their imaginations ran wild. They expected chaos, sudden blows, a dramatic end straight out of the movies. They pictured you storming into their world like some executioner ready to strike them down. That's how shallow their understanding was. They thought destruction only came with sound and spectacle. But the kind of death you brought wasn't the physical, it was the death of the illusions they lived by. And trust me, that cuts deeper than any blade, because you didn't need to touch them. You didn't need to raise a voice, make a threat, or send a warning. Their own masks did the job. The roles they had so carefully rehearsed, the victim, the savior, the loyal partner, the trustworthy friend, collapsed under the simple weight of your authenticity. You stood still, unshaken, real. And that was enough to suffocate every lie they built their identity on. Chosen ones, this is where your true power stuns them. People living in illusions can't survive around mirrors, and that's exactly what you are. You don't have to expose them by force. Your presence does it automatically. Your truth is like oxygen. When it fills the room, their manipulations can't breathe. They start choking not on what you say, but on what they can't cover up anymore. Think about it. How many times have you seen liars trip over their own words when faced with silence? How often do manipulators contradict themselves when they realize they're no longer being played with? That's what happened here. The karmic couple tried to keep their performance going, but the stage lights burned too bright once you arrived. Every attempt to cover one lie ripped open another. Every excuse they offered exposed the cracks in their story. It was like watching someone tighten a noose around their own neck with every breath. And here's the part that eats them alive. You didn't force this collapse. You didn't raise your hand against them. You didn't even call them out. The simple fact of being chosen means you vibrate at a frequency where facades can't thrive. Masks melt in your atmosphere because your energy doesn't allow pretense to survive. While they scrambled to hold their image together, the world started noticing the inconsistencies. Friends grew distant. Allies questioned their loyalty. Their carefully managed reputations slipped away like smoke. They thought they were the ones in control of perception. They didn't realize perception flips the moment truth walks into the room. And my dear chosen ones, this is your edge. You don't fight illusions head-on. You don't waste time tearing down masks. You simply exist, and the falsehoods unravel themselves. That's what rattles your enemies the most. They expect a war, a clash, a loud confrontation. What they face instead is silence, a silence so powerful that it forces their lies to scream louder until everyone hears them. They wanted you to look like the problem. They tried to frame you as unstable, as weak, as deceptive. But masks are fragile when tested against reality. The cracks showed in public arguments, in private betrayals that spilled into the open, in the stories they couldn't keep consistent no matter how hard they tried. Each crack was a mirror, each mirror was reflection, and each reflection left them gasping for air. This is why being chosen isn't about aggression, it's about inevitability. You don't have to chase revenge because their masks become their undoing. You don't have to scream for exposure because their own contradictions will expose them louder than you ever could. You are the angel of death to illusion, and illusions always suffocate under truth. So remember this, chosen ones. They thought you would come with thunder, with fire, with destruction from the outside. But what really destroyed them was far worse. Their own masks strangled them. Their carefully crafted personas turned into cages. Their lies became weapons that cut back toward them. That is the death they never saw coming. The slow, agonizing death of pretense. And you didn't even have to lift a finger. They thought you were the executioner. What they learned the hard way is that you are the mirror, and nothing terrifies pretenders more than seeing themselves clearly for the first time. Number 9. They confused tricks for power while your purity burned them down. They mistook tricks for power, not knowing innocence was the silent weapon. The purest water drowns the dirtiest lies. My dear chosen ones, let's strip this down. The karmic couple and their practitioner thought power lived in the dark. They believed the louder the ritual, the more elaborate the chant, the more expensive the offering, the stronger they became. To them, control meant manipulation, and manipulation meant strength. They worshipped performance, candles, coins, whispers, sleepless nights of plotting, thinking it made them untouchable. But what shattered them was the discovery that real power never had to buy props. Real power never needed a stage. Real power simply existed, and in your case, chosen ones, it existed in innocence. Think about it. Innocence doesn't shout. It doesn't need to prove itself. It just is. And that alone was enough to dismantle everything they tried to build in secret. They underestimated how dangerous a clean soul is to corruption. They mistook purity for fragility, not realizing it carries a frequency so sharp, so blinding, that deceit cannot survive in its presence. To corruption, innocence is lethal. They spent nights summoning, but you slept peacefully. They spent money on a practitioner's promises, while you thrived without spending a cent. They burned candles down to ashes, while you lit up rooms simply by walking in. The contrast humiliated them, even if they'll never admit it out loud. Their rituals collapsed not because you fought harder, but because your innocence carried a voltage their corruption couldn't withstand. Chosen ones, innocence is like a filter. It doesn't swallow poison, it rejects it. When they tried to send malice your way, it had no soil to root itself in. So it turned back, sharper than before, and pierced the very hands that sent it. They thought witchcraft was destructive. They didn't realize that innocence dismantles quietly, efficiently, without confrontation. It doesn't need noise. It doesn't need defense. It doesn't even need awareness. Innocence destroys without lifting a hand. Here's the irony that eats them alive. Their sacrifices made them weaker, not stronger. Every ritual drained their wallets, their energy, their health. Every chant was another notch of desperation. They had to feed their power constantly or watch it fade. Meanwhile, you kept rising without effort. You didn't buy your power. You were born with it. You didn't have to feed it. It grows naturally as you live aligned with who you are. That contrast exposed them more than failure ever could, because while they were sweating and striving, you were simply existing, and that is why their curses boomeranged so brutally. Innocence doesn't fight energy head-on, it reflects it. It's like a mirror that refuses to hold the reflection of corruption. So when their spells hit you, they saw nothing, no damage, no chaos, no breakdown. That silence terrified them more than anything, because it meant their strongest weapons didn't even make a scratch. And then came the kicker, when those same curses returned home, heavier, sharper, more merciless. They weren't just fighting shadows anymore, they were fighting their own malice, amplified. Chosen ones, let this truth sink deep. Innocence is not passivity, it's not weakness, it's volatility. It's the most explosive weapon against corruption because it doesn't play the same game. Spells fade, rituals expire, practitioners fail. But innocence remains untouchable, and that's what they didn't prepare for. They thought your silence meant vulnerability. They thought your purity meant naivety. But what it really meant was their destruction. That's why their empire burned. Not with a bang, but with the slow realization that nothing they worshipped could hold ground against you. Every chant, every curse, every manipulation proved counterfeit compared to the raw, unshakable force of a clean soul. That humiliation cuts deeper than any wound because it proves they never had real power to begin with. And here's the final twist that scorches them hardest. Innocence doesn't just survive corruption, it erases it. It strips the mask, shatters the illusion, and leaves the enemy exposed with nothing left to hide behind. You didn't fight them, you didn't chase them, you didn't even acknowledge their games. You simply kept being who you are, and that alone was enough to bring their house of cards down. So remember this, chosen ones. While they invested everything in counterfeits, you carried the one thing they could never purchase, copy, or steal: innocence. And it was that very gift, silent and effortless, that burned their empire to the ground. And that, my dear chosen ones, is the truth the karmic couple and their practitioner never saw coming. The harder they tried to break you, the faster they collapsed under their own weight. You didn't just survive, you became the death angel to deception itself. Now, if this message hit home, show it. Smash that like button, subscribe for more, and drop the number 77 in the comments so we know you're walking in your power. Share this video with those who need to see how chosen ones always rise. Stay sharp, stay unstoppable.